This is Tim Albright with AVNation with an AVNation special celebrating International Women's Day the entire month of March. And with me today is Senior Director of Communications for AVIXA, Joé Lloyd. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something that folks may not realize that you joined AVIXA about a year or so ago. Had a really interesting, start to your tenure there. January of 2020 was very uneventful. February was even more so. March had nothing going on. We were somewhat obviously tongue in cheek, but before you came to AVIXA, you had worked with with a manufacturer as well. So one of the things that we're kind of finding out from folks is how did Joé Lloyd get involved in the industry? So how did you find your way into AV?
I fell in probably the strangest way possible. So funny anecdotal story about me is that I was actually a makeup artist for 20 years. So I came out of school with married, actually. I got married at the age of 20, had my first son at 23, and all along my tenure, I was doing makeup and getting to play Barbie, which I absolutely loved. There is nothing, I think, more special than getting to help a woman feel her absolute best. So I spent many a moon doing that, and let my ex-husband be the entrepreneur and leader of business in our family, which moved us from South Florida to Atlanta, Georgia, where I eventually went back to work. And so I started a new career in e-commerce and retail, really building a client services team for a fledgling e-commerce platform that wound up going big. And I, from there, wound up at a small boutique agency doing retail PR. And one of my former clients was at Nanolumens. And she called me one day and she said, "Hey, we're doing this thing and I really need some help and I need the agency." And we talked through it. And I jokingly said to her, "You should just hire me." And then she called me 2 weeks later and she said, "So do you want a job?"
Okay.
Yeah. And so lo and behold, I left agency life and I went to the client side, and I started off as the director of marketing, went through a couple of VPs of marketing. And when my final VP left, I walked into the office and I said, "So we're not doing this anymore. I've been running this for a number of years and now it's mine." And there we go.
So one of the things, and I will share an anecdotal story about you, and I hope you don't mind. And we're recording this, so if you do, we can, Mitchell will cut it out. One of you and I's first interactions when you were the director when you came over to AVIXA is we were doing an interview with Mr. Labuscus, and we were standing in front of a video wall. And I'm not going to say who the video wall was because of what you said about the video wall afterwards. You were critiquing said video wall. And it's one of these things where, I wanted to encapsulate that for a moment for others in the industry, specifically for the other men in the industry, because so often women get looked at as marketing, or they get looked at as PR. They get looked at as soft skill is the wrong word here, but not technical, not hardware. And certainly there's some incredible women that we've interviewed here that have been in the industry. And I wanted to encapsulate that for a moment. Talk to us for a second about, some of the ways that you or other women have been able to kind of break some of those stereotypes about not having the technical skill, about not having the technical opinion, about, not being able to have those conversations.
Wow. I guess first and foremost, I would say I don't personally consider myself to be all that technical. I will tell you that I can't math at all. So when we start talking about viewing distance or how to calculate stuff like that, I'm gone. I count on my fingers. I can't help with math with the kids. It's terrible. I can occasionally write a sentence though. But I think for me personally, I'm not much of a book learner. I didn't particularly enjoy school. I came out of college sort of not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. In fact, funny enough, my dad sort of demanded that I go to school for business, and that was what I major in. and I flunked out of calculus my freshman year. I'm pretty sure I flunked economics too. And I was in a public speaking course, and my teacher pulled me aside, my professor pulled me aside and said, "What the hell are you doing in business? Come over to communications. We want you." And it sort of changed my direction. But what I found as I went back to work and really developed a career is that I love to learn, but I love to learn while I'm doing. And in order to do my job, I have to understand what I'm talking about. I think oftentimes marketing is always that redheaded stepchild of the company. People don't know what to do with them. They're a spend. They're not smart. It's the girls. What are they doing? Yeah, I actually know what I'm doing, and I'm driving business, and I have to understand the product in order to be able to drive business, and I have to understand the competitive landscape. And oftentimes I have to pull that attitude of, yeah, I actually do know what I'm talking about in a room full of men. And I'm sure there's lots of women who have to do that as well, who get seen as, oh, well, you're just in marketing, or you just do that thing. I think one of the things I loved about Nanolumens, it was twofold. One, we had a commitment to veterans, but two, much of our engineering staff and the project managers were women, and they were rockin' women who knew what they were doing. And I joke sometimes that being a young mother, but being a mother in general, sometimes really does do a lot for your career. I can multitask, and I know a lot of women who can, in ways that men just can't do it. We can juggle because we have to juggle because we're doing all of those things. It prepares you, and it gets you going, and we are special.
You are indeed. Absolutely. Because I can't multitask in just in general. I have difficulty walking and chewing gum at the same time. It's an old joke, kids. So talk for a second about some of you mentioned the engineers and the PMs at Nanolumens that were women and kind of showed and demonstrated what was possible. But certainly you've had struggles. Certainly you've had hurdles within this industry as a woman. What were some of those hurdles, and how did you overcome them?
I've had hurdles in pay. I've had hurdles in respect. I have had, I think one of my favorite stories was handling a new hire who came in as a peer, and in the midst of a conversation, reached over, patted me on the knee, and said, "Well, little lady, that's just how business gets done." Because I didn't agree with where the conversation was going. I know how business gets done. I shouldn't have to have others advocate for me to make the same as my predecessors did. We, as women, often have to fight harder and prove more to get the same respect. I jokingly texted you this morning and said, I washed my hair and I put on the makeup. I have to make sure that I look good on camera, not only because it makes me feel better, but because when I don't, oh, are you tired today? Are you sick? What's wrong? Men don't get that. Even last
No.
night, I was watching the tennis match. I was watching Serena and Naomi. And as they were kicking off the event, the male announcer said, "This is the most beautiful tournament you'll attend during the day, or this today." They would never refer to any of the males, Djokovic, any of the other ones, as a beautiful match, but they referred to Naomi and Serena as such. They talked for hours, it seemed like, about Serena coming back after having her baby. You know what? She took some time away. Good for her. Do we have to talk about her body? These are the things that women have to overcome day in and day out, and it's just part of our society.
So part of our society, then, is it a daunting task? Is it too much to ask to change an industry that is male dominated because it is society, or is it possible, and is it not naive to think that we can?
I think we can change. I think in the same way that we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, we look at how do we not only raise up people of color and so many that are not being recognized, but how do we also raise up women and expect that they can do, if not the same job as men, a better job than men? We don't see a ton of female executives. We don't see a ton of females in the sales side of it, but we do see a lot of really strong women throughout the marketing areas and into other areas of expertise. And we need to continue to recognize their value. We have, I look at Sarah Joyce, who I have the opportunity to work with, who came from electrosonic. Man, is she a smart lady. I get to look at folks like Ifat and what she's doing in the industry, at Brandy and what she's doing in the industry. Look at Charmaine, look at Alexis. We have some of the most amazing, strong women who are not meek. They are proud of their voice, and we need more of that. Be proud of the voice and let them shine.
I like that. One of the questions that I ask folks in these interviews is, what do you want the impact to be? So you are not anywhere near retirement, but you will eventually retire at some point in your life. When you do, what do you want to look back and see? What do you want to look back on your career and see that has changed in the industry, and that maybe you've had a hand in that change?
Such a big question. I would love to see more female executives. I would love to see more women walking around the show floor and not standing inside of show booths. I would love to see great women being creators and inventors. It's an interesting, when you start to look at the patents and the creation of technology in the AV industry, I'm betting we see a lot of men back there, and I bet you there's some really cool stuff going on with that women can bring to the table. I think we have an opportunity to challenge, create, and bring an excellence to the industry that will keep us growing.
Very good. Joé Lloyd from AVIXA. Thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or AVIXA if they are so inclined?
You can find us on Twitter at AVIXA. You can find me on Twitter at Joé Lloyd, or you can email me at jlloyd@avixa.org.
All right, for us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this interview and a host of others, including a great number of other interviews for International Women's Day. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.